Moving across the pond, long ball number 3 for Monday, October 21st. The good, the bad, and the ugly from Europe. There was plenty of all those categories. I'll kick us off with the good, in my opinion. Liverpool and Chelsea, the Sunday headline matchup, proving both teams are in fact the class or in the class of the Premier League. The match commentary, I think, summed it up on the final whistle. Liverpool with the win are certainly now title contenders, and Chelsea are a work in progress, but a rapid work in progress.
I know. I think that Maresca has done very, very good work. Let's point out. I mean, this is not necessarily about the U.S. men's national team, but Mauricio Pochettino did a lot of the work to get Chelsea to that moment where
he got them back to a respectable level at that last 2 months of the season.
I mean, he did a lot of work with a bunch of young players, and don't forget that they had some very difficult moments last year. I mean, that absolute battle with Tottenham to start the calendar year was a major moment for both those teams. Obviously, it upended Tottenham in more ways than it did Chelsea, I think, relative to expectations. You have a pretty young team at Chelsea. Right, they had that penalty fight. Can't remember exactly when that happened. I believe it was March or April, something in that area. And Pochettino handled it as well as anybody could. I don't know if they would be exactly where they are if Pochettino was in charge. I think the football has changed a little bit. It's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more attack minded. They go for things in a way that maybe they weren't going for it all the time under Pochettino. But man, they definitely have some pieces there. But it's clear, and for a team that also made a transition at coach at the managerial position in Liverpool, for them to be a point above everybody, a point above City, 8 matches in, it's so early. Let's not count any chickens. I don't think anybody liver birds. Let's not count liverbirds. It's Liverpool and liverbirds. Yeah, you guys are so confusing. Why is that a thing?
Just like how my English father says, whenever anything like that doesn't make sense, you can just chalk it up to being traditional.
Oh, okay. So
it's traditional.
Don't count your liver birds, I guess, is what I was trying to say there. For them to be where they are is obviously an achievement. I mean, you wouldn't have had them losing at home to Forest on your bingo card. So they could be 4 points up now instead of 1. But it's still a very good start for Arne Slot. They've only conceded 3 times on the season.
None in the first. They haven't conceded a first half goal yet the whole season.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think we know City's going to be there all the way down, especially if they benefit from calls like they did this weekend. We'll maybe talk about that at some point. But we're talking about the good, right? Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously that game living up to the billing is part of the good.
Another part of the good, Christian Pulisic gets an assist, and he looked very, very sharp once again. We'll talk about him more in a little bit, but I definitely put him in the good category. Would you put Erik ten Hag in the good category? Man, you getting a 2-1 win over a team they've had a tricky time with in the past in Brentford?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's good enough, right? That's what you want to say, is that it's not good. Things don't change overnight because you beat Brentford. But it's especially at home, right?
You don't dig yourself a deeper hole, that's for sure.
No, you don't. But you're not exactly climbing out of it by beating Brentford. If Manchester United wants to be back where they think they belong, it's going to take a lot more than that. They've only got, speaking of Liverpool only conceding 3 goals, United's only scored 7 times on the season, and that includes the 2-1 win over Brentford this weekend. So, that's still a lot of work to do. But let's just say good enough for the moment to perhaps save his job, as the vultures are circling, and we keep hearing in the media that they've already talked to several people, potentially, including Thomas Frank, who was spotted in Manchester or in the greater Manchester area having lunch with somebody, and everybody was like, oh, he's going for the United job. That's not what you want if you're Erik ten Hag.
No, and that's where he's going to be with how his tenure has been and the nature of Manchester United. He's just going to be there. Anytime anyone is spotted at any of those games now moving forward, it's going to be in the tabloids, and not a good situation. You might call that bad. So we'll switch to the good and the bad and the ugly. We'll go to bad. We are 8 match days in and they are 4 Premier League teams without a single win. That's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty. You could argue it's ugly, but I think for our little segment here, we need to put that in the bad category. But at the same time, do you look at any of those teams and you're shocked, you're surprised, you're flabbergasted by the lack of victories? Is there one team that stands out and you go, I'm surprised they don't have a win yet?
Of the 4 teams, Ipswich, Southampton, Palace, and Wolves, I think Palace surprised me the most.
Yes.
Because I still kind of consider them in my mind a good team. They were the last 2-3 months of the season were incredible last year. They lost a couple pieces, and they haven't really looked horrible, but they've not gotten any wins, and they've been pipped at the end quite a few times, and they've had a rough ride. Another team who's lost a little bit. I don't think that they're going to be at the bottom the rest of the way, but Wolves, they gave Manchester City everything they could, and they still lost.
Well, that's the thing. It does feel as though Palace and Wolves historically don't belong in that group, right? That's what you're saying. Like, there's this sense that, oh, those teams are better than where they are. But right now, they're probably not. Right now, roster-wise, squad-wise, they're probably not. And, by now, it's actually a bit of a surprise to me that with the international break we just went through, because that's traditionally the moment that you consider things. We didn't have any sackings, right? We didn't have anybody. We didn't have Glasner lose his job at Palace. We didn't see any. I don't know if it's panic is the right word, but Wolves has every reason to panic right now with a single point from 8 matches. Like that feels like the moment when you're like, okay, Gary, thank you for your time. Let's move on. But then it becomes the revolving door. And if you don't have a better option right now, and what kind of coach can Wolves attract? Maybe it's not better to go diving back into that pool.
If you look at the goal difference, it really spells out why Wolves are struggling. They have scored 10 goals, which would put them as good as 15th place West Ham as far as goal tallies, but they've conceded 23 times.
23 goals.
8 games.
6 of those were against Chelsea. I would mention that. It doesn't change a lot. You still conceded them. It just happened that one game was a big boost to that number. So, are they good? No. Are they a relegation quality side? The results say yes, and until proven otherwise, that's what they look like. I mean, it is definitely a bit of joy for Everton, for Ipswich, for those kind of teams that Wolves are as bad as they are defensively and are sitting down at the bottom. I think you would have imagined Southampton would have been down there. We came into the season. Are the 3 promoted teams going to be the 3 relegated teams? Well, right now. And again, early, only 8 matches in, with Palace, by the way, playing Forest today.
Yep.
After our show, it looks like Forest might be good enough to stay up again. Southampton probably going to end up going down. I don't think that's a shock. Ipswich fighting for it, right? Giving themselves an absolute chance at the moment. Leicester City, I think a lot of people had them going down again too, and there they are, 14th position, couple of wins on the trot.
Long ball number 3, the ugly of our good, bad, and the ugly. And I think it's almost a no-doubter. This was an easy pick for ugly. The video assistant referee system. They said they are inferring that this is going to be flawless stuff. And with the decisions at the weekend, it's shown to be very inconsistent.
I don't know that so I will say this for the powers that be. And, you can obviously not like referees as a general rule if that's just your position. But I think for the most part, Howard Webb, he's the guy again in the Premier League. They don't say it's going to be perfect. They don't say like every call is going to be right. What they say is that this is meant to get the egregious calls and fix them when they're made, when those mistakes are so obvious. And there were some examples this weekend of sort of egregious mistakes being fixed. But I don't like that we come out of a pretty dramatic Premier League weekend with some good games and some big moments. And what we're talking about is, well, in this game, that's a last man red card, and it's not it's the right call. And then on this other game, well, that one's not a last man red card because it's slightly different. Right, it's slightly different, Robert. And again, the offside, Bernardo Silva in that Wolves City game, shielding, screening the goalkeeper, but probably not screening the goalkeeper. I'm not even sure I'm not saying it's a bad call to give that goal, right? I'm not saying that. So the goal happens, they wave it off for offside, they go to VAR, they correct the mistake because Silva's not in a position to actually interfere with the goalkeeper, right? And then you look back in history and you see, well, there were moments like that where the call was made the other way. Mm-hmm. And the problem I have here is that so much of even the book that we use to officiate the game, the laws of the game are subjective inherently. I mean, you can't write a law that makes such a bright white line between one side of the call and the other side of the call that everything is going to be binary. There are 50-50 calls all over the field. There are 60-40 calls, and that's just a guess. Like, we're just approximating. Oh, that collision, that is 60-40, right? That shoulder to shoulder, is that a fair shoulder to shoulder, or is there an advantage getting there? Somebody's fouling in that moment. Like, everything is subjective from the very beginning. Even handballs are subjective. Right? Sometimes handballs are given and you're like, okay, yep, 100%. And then sometimes they're given, you're like, well, did he really, is that the silhouette thing? Is that a guide that actually means anything? And for me, all this does is take the responsibility for making a subjective call from the person whose job it always was in the past and move it to somebody else who's not really getting. I mean, look, you can say that the video images provide a better view, but when the call in the beginning is subjective and it stays subjective, we're just adding time. We're just stretching the game out. We're taking away those joyful moments of celebration when a goal is scored because everybody has to second guess themselves. I mean, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. You can point to individual calls and say, they got that right, they got that right, they got that right. But there are enough bad calls coming out of VAR, and there are enough just moments of frustration over the interruptions, the flow of the game, the spirit, the joy of it all, that I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't know if I ever will, Robert.
I definitely got my blood pressure up watching the Manchester City thing, just because I knew once they went to VAR, I already knew the outcome when they were talking about that. That one, the middle finger might have been pointed at the television.
So again, you look at that situation. Right? Again, you can see from the angle of the video behind the goal that Silva is not screening the goalkeeper, that he is not interfering but he is in an offside position. Right? There's no doubt he's in an offside position. So again, we're just trying to squeeze some certainty into a law that doesn't have certainty available. Because if he is 1 foot to the left, he's screening now or he's not. Right? Again, I know I'm moving him in this scenario and that's not where he was. But every team that has a call like that, either made for them or against them, is going to be arguing about it anyway. VAR doesn't clarify whether or not the law is right. It only allows for a subjective decision to be made after the fact. You've already got a subjective call. And City fans will say that's not fair, that we would be disallowed a goal that could help us win a title if Silva wasn't actually screening the goalkeeper. Yeah, sure, you're right about that. But there are other times when we use this system where it doesn't do what it's supposed to do or what people think it does. And all it does is create this sense that we're supposed to get everything right when that is not possible from the very outset. The whole thing is a fool's errand to begin with.
It's all quite confounding with the video assistant referee. We could talk all day about all the various hairs to pick with the video assistant referee, but we'll move right along. If you want your say in today's long balls, hit us up on M Kick Around on X and Instagram, or write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And definitely hit us up, follow on YouTube, because we're going to keep on coming with these topics each and every show.